Good morning. Welcome to Smart Cities Expo 2019. Just by a quick show of hands, how many people have been here before? Okay. So we got a lot of newcomers.
That is. Well, sorry.
So welcome to the Smart City Expo for those who have never been here before. My name is Michael Lake. I was one of the founders of the advisory board for this expo. And just to give you a quick history, as we're now in our 9th edition, the very first year we started, I remember the conversations. How many people do we think we could get to come to Barcelona for a Smart Cities event? It was still an early stage in the Smart Cities industry, and the question was it 1,000, 2,000, 5,000, 6,000? I'm very excited to share with you, as you've probably already heard, that this year we are expecting about 25,000 people here in Barcelona focused on one goal, which is to advance smart cities. So the Fair of Barcelona and the folks that have organized this event have done such a fabulous job of building a global ecosystem that helps to advance smart cities solutions, smart city methodologies, and cities' perspectives on themselves and other cities, joining each other, building more collaborative efforts. And in that very same vein, 1 year ago today, leading cities, which I'll talk about in just a moment, and bright cities based in Brazil, gathered here at this event a year ago and decided that there was an opportunity to bring new information into the world of smart cities. I'll explain in a little bit, but it's the leading cities rating system. It is a fundamental shift, a paradox change in how we measure smart cities, building a more collaborative effort between cities rather than a competitive atmosphere. So to begin this morning, I'll just start with a little bit about leading cities. So we are a global nonprofit organization. We are headquartered in Boston with operations around the world. And it is our mission to support cities as they endeavor to achieve smart city status. More resiliency, more sustainability, more equity among citizens. That is the goal of leading cities. To do that, we work with three main groups. Of course, we work with cities. But recognizing that cities are looking towards innovation and new solutions, the real innovators are startups. They have the agility to innovate. So we found it necessary to start working with startups to better understand the innovations of tomorrow, so we can work with cities and prepare them, educate them, build a framework for them to operate and to include these new solutions in their own fabric. And of course, we work with partners. We work with partners from around the world. We work with universities and corporations, large and small. We work with other nonprofit organizations, of course, governments and government agencies. That has been our approach from the very beginning, which we refer to as the Q helix, or the quintuple helix: public sector, private sector, nonprofit, academia, and citizens themselves. We never want to forget citizens. That is the center of the smart city ecosystem. It's why we do this, to improve the quality of life in cities, to make sure that cities and the planet is sustainable for future generations of citizens. So it's very much a human-centric approach to understanding and supporting smart cities. So the goal we now have is, how do cities achieve that smart city status? And what is that race for smartness? Of course, about a decade ago when we started leading cities, this and many other questions are what we were asking ourselves. What is a smart city? We still talk about that definition today. Which city is the smartest? How do you measure that? These are some of the fundamental questions that existed and still exist to this day. And what we learned was that there wasn't really enough answers. There was more questions than answers. So we were engaged in a couple of research projects at that time, but as we were getting deeper and deeper into these projects, we realized that there was no way of comparing one city to another. Again, this is 10 years ago. So we thought maybe we should create a ranking. Well, before we completed those early research projects, the first ranking on smart cities was published. Then a second and a third, and now there are many smart city rankings. The conversation we had with Bright Cities last year was there are fundamental challenges we have with smart city rankings. And two of those challenges is that no matter how good or bad the group of cities are that you're ranking, somebody always achieves the number one status. So it creates a false impression of what you should be achieving, if that in fact is not the smartest city in the world, because that's where we want to be setting our goals. The second fundamental challenge of a ranking system, and as I said, there are many of them, and this is not a criticism of these rankings. We appreciate these rankings. This is just adding a new way of measuring cities. And the fundamental challenge that these rankings have is that it does create a sense of competition between cities. So it's a zero-sum game. In order for one city to move up, another city has to move down. And it creates that false sense of competition. That competition among cities is the antithesis of what leading cities is all about. We are working and have been working for a decade more now to bring cities together, to share best practices, to advance smart city solutions, knowing that if we work together, we get farther, faster. And that's really our goal, is to help cities achieve that smart city status faster. So we decided that we were going to create the leading cities rating system powered by Bright Cities. And Kelly will talk to you a minute about the platform on which this is built, but it is a powerful platform, and it has allowed us to measure cities in a completely new way. So leading cities and Bright Cities are the lead partners in this effort. We reached out to key collaborators and many other partners. We included city leaders like Jamie Cudden from the City of Dublin, global experts like Jason Whitted from Rockefeller Foundation's 100 Resilient Cities when it was still in operation, and of course Jennifer James from the Smart City Council. What we wanted to do was create a rating system that appealed to everyone, that made sense to everyone, that measured cities in a way that made sense to everyone. Yeah. So we had our guiding principles. Our guiding principles started off with we wanted to use official city data, and it had to be open. We believe that data at this day and age should be open, made public. So that is one of the requirements we have in the data that we use to measure out the cities. We, of course, looked at standardized city indicators so that it is comparable from one city to the next. The goal of the leading cities rating powered by Bright Cities is to encourage and facilitate behavioral change in cities. Yep. Welcome. And ultimately to provide value for cities to understand how they do compare with other cities and who they should be turning to model, to understand what best practices exist, what policies exist, what solutions were implemented, and to at times follow and at other times lead. So Kel, in a moment, will talk to you about the exact methodology that we used to build this, but ultimately our goal was to facilitate collaboration. Collaboration between cities, collaboration between city leaders, collaboration between solution providers, and ultimately, we've created a system that we launched a preview at Smart City Expo Atlanta just a few months ago with just 24 US cities. These were the 24 cities that were included in Rockefeller Foundation's 100 Resilient Cities. And I'll be honest with you, part of the story of that first preview was the fact that these 24 US cities, not one achieved an A+, an A, or even an A- status, which is a very important thing to note. I think what you will find in the preview or the launch today of the full 500 cities that we have rated in the US And by the way, I'm probably cutting into Kel's talking points here, but I should say that the vision for this system is to be a global system. So this year we're launching it in the US. Come back next year to the Smart City Expo and we will have a global rating system so we can compare international best practices. But what we found from this year is that, contrary to, I think, popular belief, is that smaller cities are actually better positioned to become smarter cities than the larger cities that we have spent so much time focusing on. So I think that's just one of the many takeaways that we will have from the publishing of this Smart City rating system. So without further ado, I want to share the podium, the microphone, with our colleague, Raquel, from Bright Cities. Bright Cities, as I mentioned, is in Brazil and has been the basis, the foundation on which this entire rating system has been built. We are proud to have been a partner with them, and we look forward to many, many more years of collaboration between us.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you for the great presentation. So I'm Raquel Cardamon. I'm from Bright City. It's a platform that consolidates data for cities, and we are very honored to be part of this great project and innovate project that's a rating system for cities. So as Mike explained, it's great because it's innovative and it's a rating system, different that we already have. So that was the principles that we use. Our methodology use open data. We use data analyze with our platform to get global recognized indicator for 10 dimensions. We use only official data, that's very important to say, so we can compare the information on cities. So we consolidate that, but we not only consolidate data, we normatize the data, we update the data too, so that's very important to say. We have like different, nowadays we have so many sources of data, so it's very important for us to consolidate that all in one platform, so we can use that and compare between cities. And give this information so the public managers that can use in an easier way. So we are using indicators by United Nations, ISO, World Bank, and all the official source for United States. For this rating system, we are focused on United States, but as Mike said, we have a goal to develop this rating system for global cities. So the areas that we analyze 10 areas, so all the areas that are managed by cities. So we have governance, health, education, security, mobility, environment, urbanism. We have technology, economy, and of course we have all the what gives a new solutions, a new companies. That's the area of entrepreneurship. That's very important when we're talking about smart city. So we have all the areas that we have here in the Expo, and that cities manage on this rating system. So for this, we launched on Atlanta Expo, we launched the 24 cities of the United States, and here in Smart City Barcelona, we are launching the 500 largest cities United States rating system. So we already have the information for these 500 largest cities. We use more than 30 indicators on all the areas that we talked about. So we have like 10 dimensions. So we have the whole city analyzed on this rating system. And what we use as methodology, we use data science. We use public data to compare cities. And what we did is that we got for each indicator, we got the best score on any city that could have in the United States. So this is, we set as the ideal city. And we have the lower score too. So we have this range. And by using this range, we use the A to F score. So then we score each city on that. So we give a grade for each city. So that's what's the methodology that we use. So the ideal city is determined using the best results achieved by a city in each of the indicators that we are analyzed. So since we had that, we ran through all the data that we have from all the cities, from all the indicators, and we grade each city using this methodology. So that was the scale that we use. That's the results on the top 20 cities from the list. But again, we graded all the 500 cities in the United States, and this is going to be available on leading city site. We have already available the 24 cities, but after this great launch, we're going to give the information available. So that's for each city. We have the grade on the A to F. And it's very important to say how we use it. We explain about the methodology. We explain how important was for us to develop these rating systems. A lot of experience from leading cities and bright cities on that. But just to give you an overview about bright cities, today the platform is the easiest way to diagnose the cities and to connect to solution. What we did is that we consolidate data worldwide so we can compare cities using 160 indicators. Again, using standardized indicators. So it's ISO, it's from United Nations, from the Sustainable Development Goals that you're going to hear a lot on these next 3 days. And we consolidate this data. We consolidate the data using information by solution. So all the solutions that are available in this Expo, in the last Expos, we consolidate on this platform. So we can connect what are the indicators and what are the solutions that can improve that indicators. So we consolidate that, use the database on solution, but not only a database of solution, but we classify the solution by cost, impact, and the time to implement that solution. That's very helpful for the public manager. And the platform is used as city benchmarking as well, since we can compare. So we have like two very important tools to understand more about cities. So you have the rating system that we have, and we have this powered by Bright Cities. We are very happy to be here and to share with you all the information on the rating system. We just launched that, so we have a lot to discuss and to share with you what were the biggest findings that we had on this amazing rating system. So we are be glad if you have questions or more information on it. So very happy to be here. As Mike said, it was 1 year ago we had this goal to develop this rating system, and we are now launching the rating system for the United States. So we are very happy here to share the information with you. It's a very useful, again, information that so we can stimulate all this smart city and the improvement of cities, always with the objective to improve quality of life of citizens. So that's our main goal always, right, Mike?
That's exactly right.
Yeah, so we have, I think, a question over.
Please.
Great question. So her question was that we just launched the United States version, and if we're going to launch the Brazilian one. Yes, for next year, our plan is to go globally, and probably you're going to start with Brazil. Yeah.
In fact, we've already started on thousands of cities in Brazil.
Yeah, we already have all the information in Brazil, and we already started some rating system there, so we're probably going to launch soon there.
One other thing I'll add, and I'll come to you in just a moment, but just to speak about the ideal city, I think this is one of the real changes in how we measure cities. It allows us to create this ideal city, which is not a utopian city. It's not saying what cities should achieve. It's taking the best scores that have already been achieved by one city or another and piecing them together. The best scores might be the highest, might be the lowest, depending on what you're measuring. But when you put it all together, you've created this ideal city that any city can achieve because another city has already achieved it. And so that is the other piece of this that I think is really important. And from year to year, as cities improve and become smarter, that ideal city keeps moving further and further away. So it's a constant state of improvement. So you had a question.
It's achievable,
And
right?
achievable.
It's not utopia as when we talk about smart city. That's very important to be achievable. So it's something that we use as principle of the rating system. That's very important, yeah.
Sir. Yes, the question here is, are we looking to continue to improve our approach and including more data sources rather than central authorities? And the answer is yes. We're already working on a, well, one of the reasons why we're launching in small scales like this is to welcome additional data sources and feedback from those cities that have been rated. And the idea is that we will ultimately create a submission system so that if anybody does have publicly available data, it has to be publicly available, that they want to add so that we can include it in their rating and improve or maybe, well, compare at least, we'll say that. Yeah?
Okay, great.
Ma'am. Yeah. Again, for everybody, the question is, will we continue to adjust and the indicators themselves and what we choose to measure? And absolutely, we see this as a kind of a living organism. I think, I don't think either one of us would pretend that we've captured everything in this first edition. And beyond just not capturing everything, we see that the smart cities field will evolve continuously, so we have to continually change and update and improve.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah,
and if you have ideas, by the way, we're welcome to them.
We're open for that, yes. And it's very important only to say that we always use indicators that are standardized. We don't create new indicators, but yes, we can, from regions, adapt that, but using an indicator that's standardized so we can compare this globally. So that's very important. It's not one more new diagnosis or list of indicators, because people say, oh, so you're creating more. No, we're not creating. We're using indicators that are already standardized and already, we have a lot of information already on that, so we can compare, but we can adapt by region. Yes, it's a good point.
Sir. Mm-hmm. So the question here is that Newton was listed as in the #1 spot on the top 20, and it is a wealthy community. So what do we do to support less wealthy communities to also achieve that status? So 2 points. One is, I just want to say that although Newton was listed first, it's not #1, because it's not a ranking. Important for us. But, so it's only up there because it was alphabetical order, and it was scored an A-, and an A- was the highest score achieved by any city, and there were, I think, 5 cities that scored an A-. It's just a minor point, just to be clear. But the underlying question you're asking, or the point of the question you're asking, is really about how you get lower income communities to also achieve this status. So I would say that the #1 factor on a city, no matter the size or income levels, that determines its smartness is really its leadership. Because it's really about choosing how to invest the resources they have, not how many resources they have, although that does eventually become a point as well. the other opportunity, regardless of wealth of a city, is the fact that because this is becoming, or this has become a collaborative platform, any city will still look at Massachusetts. It's where I'm from. So you have a city like Holyoke in Massachusetts, which is much less wealthy than Newton, but the mayor of Holyoke can turn to the mayor of Newton, or whatever city official, and learn from what they've done. Learn from some of the smart city practices that they've been implemented, the challenges that they experience when implementing them. And the idea is that the next city that follows, in this case, Newton's lead, is going to do it better than Newton did. So it's constant leapfrogging. And again, there is definitely resource questions. I mean, every city in the world would love to have more cash on hand to implement more projects. But it's not just about having the cash on hand, it's about knowing what projects are the best projects, knowing how best to implement them, and knowing the impact you're going to get once it has been implemented. And by creating this collaborative platform, that can more easily be shared.
Yeah.
Does that answer your question?
Yeah, and if I can add, I think that the rating system helps small cities to identify where they can improve. So it's the way that we can help. Since we analyze 30 indicators, we can understand where they need to start improving. Of course, they know that they have like a budget restriction, so this helps. Okay, so that's the indicator. I can achieve a better rate for that. So where should I start? So we can help. It's a tool to help them to define where to invest money because they have a restrict budget. So for more data is very important when they are developing what's the plan and where to invest because they cannot get wrong. They don't have how they need to invest in to get it right the first time. So we are helping a lot of small cities to achieve what is smart city. I think that's our main goal. It's not smart city is not only for big cities, it's for any city. So how can we help them? So we are giving more data information to help them to write this path towards smart city. So with data, that's very important. Yeah. We are saying so. In the 30 indicators, what are the indicators that this small city that has a restricted budget, how the city was graded, and let's compare that with other cities that are compared by the same size or the same financial status that these cities can be, and so we can help them see these cities having a better score on that. So how can you improve that? What these cities are doing, so we can change the best practice and stimulate them to improve. So I think our goal is to help this rating system not only to grade cities, so we can stimulate them to understand how they can improve with data.
We'll say that again.
Maybe to rate the effort, not only results.
Yeah, great. Yeah.
It's a good point, but hard to measure.
Yeah.
That's the real challenge. And just one last point on this is, for those who are not familiar with Newton and Massachusetts, just two towns over is Wellesley, which is a far wealthier community and is not on the top of that list. So although wealth certainly has its impact, it's really the leadership piece that's the key. I mean, Newton set out on a conscious effort to invest in smarter city solutions to create more inclusivity within their city limits, and that's what got them the higher score.
Yep.
Oh.
Okay, sorry.
Kristen. The quick answer is no. I think truth be told, I think they're still digesting all of this, and they're not quick to commit to something. Of course, they're going to go through their internal process. Oh, sorry. The question was, since our preliminary release in September at the Smart City Expo Atlanta, have there been any cities that have seen their score and have taken proactive measures to change and improve that score? And the answer is not yet. I think it's just a matter of processing at this point. There was also we indicated that we'd be releasing all 500 cities here today. So I think they've been waiting for this day as well. But there has been some initial interest, which is, I forget now, I think it's probably over 50.
Yeah, it was amazing by universities. So we were able to impact a lot of the ecosystem of smart city. That was very good, and not only the cities, but the universities and solution providers too.
Correct. So actually, one example is a city in Poland, which is not even rated by us, reached out to leading cities to see how they could work with us. They were in the process of developing a smart city strategy. They want to eventually score high when it's a global rating system. So we're already starting. So I think the answer to your question is there is interest and there is intended effort. Just in 2 months, it hasn't materialized.
And I think it was nice for us to talk about the highlights that we had, like Boston didn't grade ASA. So I think it was interesting for that. Even saying that Boston's a very interesting city, it didn't grade A. So that was B, right?
Yeah.
So there still needs improvement. So we were able to really analyze the whole area in a way that we can help even a big city to see where they need to improve.
So we'll go up here and then down here. Indicators? Yeah.
Yeah, so his question is if you can see the list of indicators, right? Yes, you can. So I think it's time for us to share where you can contact us. So there you can contact us and ask for more details on the rating system. So it's Leading Cities site.
Leadingcities.org. But you were asking specifically of the Bright Cities platform and the 160 indicators.
Yeah, so so in the leadingcities.org, you can go there and achieve the rating system for more information. For Bright Cities that we have, the 160 indicators, just go to brightcities.city. And there you have icon that says indicators, and you have a sample of what are the indicators that we are using. You don't have the list of the 160, but you have a sample so you can understand what we are using. We are very aligned with ISO and with the standardized indicators that are used on the Sustainable Development Goals. But you have any questions for details on each area, yeah, you can contact us by there. So it's brightcities.city.
Sir.
I had more or less the same question, actually. You talked about open data. Should you think about having these indicators open for everyone as well to be able to at least see if, like, for us, for example, it feels quite too hard to get if we don't have access to these indicators. And I think if you're thinking about open data, then you should think about having these indicators open as well.
So because this is a living organism and we've waited till this moment to share it publicly, that's the reason it's not publicly available. But the idea is that in the future, from the website, you'll be able to access
the whole list of indicators.
Yeah, the whole list of indicators, how each city rated in each indicator, how the cities rate overall. So it'll be a comprehensive publication.
Yeah, and what we did is that we graded the cities by area too. So in mobility to see what was the grade for each city. So we are having more details on the rating system and the information that we can use, so we can compare in each area what are the cities what's the grade of each city. So yes, we will share the indicator list too.
Yes. The question is, how do we deal with the political aspect of all of this? So it's a very good question. I mean, when we started this project, one of the things I said at the very beginning was, the reality is, once we publish this, as we are now doing, those cities that score high are going to love talking about the leading cities rating and how well they scored on it. And every other city is going to pretend it never existed. So we modeled this in part after like a municipal bond rating system. So the reason cities care about their bond rating is because it has a direct impact on their expenses, and specifically the interest they'll pay on their debt. That's the motivator. So we talked about how we develop the same sort of incentive for the leading cities rating powered by Bright Cities. And what we came up with is if the municipal bond rating incentive is about saving on expenses, lowering your interest rate, then maybe we should tackle the other side of the balance sheet. How do we create more revenue? And so we're working on partnerships in the real estate industry, specifically with site selection specialists, recognizing that if a corporation, big or small, is looking to locate in a city, they have certain measures that they're looking for, access to talent and taxes and whatnot, but those are all very much in the moment measures. So for instance, Amazon HQ2 famously was searching for a second location for a new headquarters. Boston, as an example, was one of those that were applying. The idea of bringing 50,000 people into the community to work at Amazon would have crippled the transportation system, not to mention already high levels of housing, cost of housing. So yes, in this moment, Amazon had everything it would have needed, but in just a very short future, people were going to have to move further from the city, take longer commutes. Instead of commuting an hour to work, it's now 2 hours each way. Who's going to commute 4 hours? Their talent pool dissolves. So the idea is that by looking at the leading cities rating as one of the many measures that the real estate industry would use, is providing a longer term vision on what the city's approach to and trends are related to smarter cities. And that's important because of the impact it has, specifically on workforce, but on many different things, infrastructure and everything else. So it's a little bit of carrot and stick approach in that sense. So you have the carrot where this measure and scoring high on this measure can help attract residents as well, but we're focusing on the real estate side, at least initially. But you also have the stick piece, just by virtue of being able to be compared from one city to the next. But it's a very important question.
And I think what's amazing about this rating system is that we don't depend on the city to get the information because we use open data. So we can share the information and the results for each area, share the information without the consent of the city. So that can be a helpful tool to improve and to ask and to make an influence on the city for the improvement of the city. So that's another advantage that just remind me by your question. So how we're using this rating system and not depending on the city. So we have the information, we have the information that we want to analyze. Even if the city is not focused on that area, we are, because we believe that was with the group of specialists believe that was important to analyze on cities. So we don't depend. We get the official data without passing through the city. So that's wonderful that we were able to do that with this rating system too.
Yes?
I think it's quite interesting what you say that you don't need the cities to be able to do the analysis. How do you gather your data then? And what if you don't have the necessary data to eventually navigate?
We get the data from the official source, but it's already available. So we get from, for example, if you have the homicide information on homicide, you get from FBI, that's open data. So it's all information is for the cities, but we gather that direct from the source. Of course, there are relevant information from indicators that we need to go to use the city to get that information. So it's additional information. Sometimes they have more updated or more information to add. So it's not that we don't want to use the cities, that many times you can get the information without the influence of the city, but we make the rating system for the cities. So we help them to use this view of the rating system to improve themselves. And of course, when we want to work with them and share all the information and add information with them, so we can have a better understanding on what's the analysis that we are doing.
Providing open data is one of the behavioral changes that we had envisioned that this system will help foster, because we do believe that it is so important to share that data. And so as we continue to evolve this rating system and work directly with city sources of data, rather than just larger sources like the FBI, for instance, it'll encourage cities to publish more and more of that data.
Yeah, it's our work with the cities. So the next step is to share directly with the cities, and we are doing that. So we're starting to talk to the cities so we can give them this information and then work together. So
I think we might have time for one more question if there is any. No? Well, listen, we want to thank you all for taking the time. I know that there are many events happening right at this very moment, not to mention over the next 2.5 days. So we appreciate you being here with us for this launch. We certainly encourage you to stay on top of Leading Cities' website, so as we continue to publish more and more information regarding this rating system, you have access to it. Please feel free to join us, follow us on Facebook and Twitter. Both of our organizations, that's another great source of staying up to date on as we continue to evolve the rating system. But most importantly, I want to thank you for being here at the Smart City Expo and for lending your expertise to this global ecosystem that's helping advance cities for a better tomorrow. Thank you very much.
thank you very much.